Now I need to look more closely at where I see light parts and dark parts. So my light source, I actually have a lamp shining right down on the apple. If you're sitting somewhere looking at one, then probably your light source is coming from the ceiling or somewhere above the apple. So we could definitely all agree, even if you're looking at a different apple or looking at it from a different perspective, the top part of it's got most of the light on it. The bottom part here is where we're going to be concentrating most of those shadows. So looking at it, I'm going to try to pick out one of the darker parts that I see. And I think that over here looks pretty dark. So I'm going to start, I know a lot of people call that shading, but we know we're calling this blending. So this is a technique we want to do with lots of other materials, not just with pencil. So this is where I didn't have to worry about that messed up line because that's getting covered up. So as I apply the shadow, as it comes up towards the top of the apple, looking at it, well, that's lighter. So the shadow should not be happening as much up there as it is down here. So I'm going to make sure as I'm applying the shadow on here, I'm blending. So as I go up towards where the light touches it, it gets lighter because there's actually more light on the apple. So light can't really get down here much. So this is definitely going to be darker. And if it's darker than the rest of it, then yeah, I would go back in, I would press harder, put more of the pencil there. Then as I look at this side, it's definitely darker over here. As I move towards the top, at the widest part of the apple, this is where it sort of changes and moves towards the light. So that's where that shadow appears to get lighter. So I'm not going up all the way. That would just be outlining it. I'm going up until I see that the light starts to affect the way that the shadow looks. So a little kid, they would just color in the whole thing. We're not little kids. We're not coloring in the whole thing. So looking at it, I'm moving the pencil the way I think it is. Now if you notice, I was curving this way. So when you guys practiced your sphere a couple of weeks ago, this is really helping us with knowing how to do this. Those are curved sides, so my mark has to be a curved mark. Same thing over here. What you'll notice is as I move towards the middle, that part is pointed at me. So the mark that I'm making actually seems straightened out because it's pointed at me in my perspective. But then when I go to the side over here again, it's curved again. Now the tricky part is there's not just shadows down on the bottom side of the apple. Looking at it, there's actually some that are on the back side here because the light hits it and it tries to go around, but it can't go all the way around. So back there, there's a little bit of a shadow. That's going to help describe what the top looks like a little bit. And then the stem itself is making this side of the apple seem a little darker, but then when you guys are looking over here, it looks a little shinier. Part of it's because there's color there that's lighter. We're not really looking at that yet. We're looking at the shiny part from the actual light coming down touching the apple. So that means this side is where the darker part is going to be. What you're going to do is you're going to try to imitate the shadow going in and out of that opening where the stem is. So your pencil will have to move to imitate that as well. This is a curved surface, so you would curve down in there to describe that shadow. So going down in there and then back out, in there and back out. And as you guys notice, the light sort of touches here. So when I come out, I stop because there should be light on that part of the apple as well. So I want you guys to spend some time getting your shadows on the actual apple. Yeah, I see a shadow around it on the table, but we're not focused on that. We know that's the contact and the cast shadow. We'll do that later. So get caught up to me. Watch the video again if you need to help, and then we'll move on to the next part.